With the release of this video, The Week I Review has completed its first hat trick. 3 separate videos on a single subject. Scottish comedian Daniel Sloss. First, it was X, followed by Socio, which at the time was called Now, and now it's this, HUBRIS. But Daniel Sloss hasn't actually started touring HUBRIS, and he won't until later this year, so what am I, probably his biggest fan, talking about? Well, his new work. That's what it was called when I saw him perform it last week in New York. He hadn't given it the official title yet, because it's not yet where he wants it to be. He came out at the beginning and gave a few minutes of clarification. 75 to 80% of the jokes are where they should be, and we are guinea pigs to help him figure out the rest. And if things don't work, we're just gonna have to push through together. So you may think, not unfairly, that I shouldn't be talking about this. But I promise you, I'm not going to quote him out of context in an attempt to tear him down and get him #canceled. I would be extremely upset if he were to stop performing or turn into some bitter old man punching down at the victims of mass shootings. In fact, I'm not going to quote him at all. If you have seen any of my other comedy special reviews, you know that I am much less interested in the efficacy of a given punchline than I am in the overall direction of comedy. So while jokes will change between what I saw and what will ultimately tour and be released to probably HBO, it is not going to be a fundamentally different show. So what I am about to say will remain relevant, though I won't be putting a score at the end of it. And you know what? If I'm wrong, I will straight up delete this video and do a new one. Cool? Cool. In my review of Socio, in the title of the video, I talked about how it fit into the larger canon of Sloss's work. X is one of my favorite specials of all time, and it marks a serious moment of reflection that made seeing his earlier work performed later kind of strange. You could feel that it was older material because the introspection that it was doing had already been settled by the time he finished the next show. X marked a tectonic shift, and anything that followed would inevitably be informed by that experience. And such is the case with HUBRIS, a show that, despite being far less introspective than either of its predecessors, was clearly written by the man who had grappled with the themes of X. Following a show like that is difficult, because it's hard to go much deeper than a fundamental reevaluation of the kind of person you have been your entire life, and few people go into their next artistic work trying to be less meaningful. But conveniently, Sloss met someone who came in and changed things for him again, in more subtle but still likely profound ways. HUBRIS is a show that we have seen many times before, the one where a comedian who had a career-defining set about how he would probably end up alone because his vision of what love should be is so difficult to achieve, gets a girlfriend, and everything is great now. But this is among the better sets in that category, I think. He's coy about it at first, talking about the self-improvements he's trying to make without actually explaining them. But the revelation that he wakes up early in the AM each day so that he can make lunch for his lady is an important moment because of the response that will inevitably follow it. The audience, myself included, awed. Because of course we did, and he was furious. He would rather we boo a joke than awe at it. Sure, he attempts to explain it away and make it less cute, but the point is that he is waking up early so he can make lunch for his girlfriend, and in society, that will never not be cute. And we awe at cute things, especially when we hear them from tough guys, because that's what it's about. Ultimately, Daniel Sloss is unhappy about the fact that his man cred is going to be shot when folks find out he's actually a really nice guy. It's the continued struggle of X, that desire to retain some masculinity in the face of a progressive backlash against it. He doesn't really speak about it in those terms, but of course that is the issue. And as someone who tries to be masculine without being broy, I get it. it is a fine line, and getting awed at for doing something because it's the right thing to do rather than because it was an intentionally cute gesture is kind of frustrating. Hell, I shudder when my girlfriend awes me. I can't even imagine having a room of over 100 people do it. It probably shouldn't be that way, but it is. Another show that turns to more ha-ha comedy in the wake of one about overt tragedy is Hannah Gadsby's Douglas, the follow-up to Nanette, a show that I frequently compare X to. That is nothing like Nanette. I actually thought about Douglas a few times while watching HUBRIS, particularly early on because both of them, not from around here, turned their sights towards America and also American English. I'm a big fan of jokes about America. In fact, one of the reasons I like watching international comedians like them or Trevor Noah is because they have a unique perspective watching the empire fall, sitting there gleefully with a big old carton of popcorn on their laps. But in Douglas, I found it odd and actually slightly annoying that she preempted her America jokes in an attempt to make us feel relatively comfortable. She was going to make the jokes regardless about how we felt about them, but she didn't want us to be upset with her. Not that we were, or at least I wasn't. I am sure that she does at least some of those jokes when she's outside of the US too, and my guess is she doesn't warn them about it. So why warn us? This is something that Sloss talks about, that he tries to do some local comedy wherever he is, but that the America stuff is golden everywhere. And he's not about to apologize or equivocate. This plays into a fairly lengthy story about Sloss's time in Tokyo, a place where I had one of the most enjoyable days of my life, followed by objectively its worst morning. Whatever. In the bit, he uses a very, very funny pantomime to make a point that he had made all the way back in Dark. Stop being offended on other people's behalf. A room of largely white New Yorkers clutching their pearls over an impression is a waste of everyone's time. And that would be true even if he hadn't done that same joke in Tokyo and brought the house down. But he did, so who are we to say that it's wrong? No one, that's who. And I'm absolutely not here to call out any of the jokes that may or may not toe a line, both because they're jokes and because I have no idea what the line is. And I fundamentally agree with the idea that it is actually worth thinking about why something offends you. To be clear, I don't have to agree with a person's feelings for them to be valid. And if someone hears something that they don't like, they're very welcome to say, I don't like that, and they're right. But that doesn't mean that's enough for everyone else. And it's kind of a shame that no one on the internet has ever asked, what are you getting so upset about, without immediately saying it was a joke, deal with it, because that can be a worthwhile exercise in understanding another person. If someone asked you why something offended you and was genuine, could you answer the question? It might be worth trying. And that gets at the deepest question in hubris, one that is guaranteed to cause the most consternation within his audience, and something that I think about a lot. What role should the subjects of ignorance play in educating the ignorant? And here's where all the air gets sucked out of the room, because there's no good answer to it, and my own feelings are nuanced. Because I don't see what I just said as an answer, even though it seems to be one. So how do I reconcile that? Well, by looking to context. As Sloss says over and over again, there is a difference between ignorance and hate. A lot of people don't know where the line is because no one ever told them, and if someone says something bad one time because they didn't know better, ostracizing them as some kind of ist or phobe is not going to turn them right. It is going to push them further towards the darkness, which I guess arguably turns them more right, but not in the good way. When you do label people as opposed to language, they get defensive. And the simple act of defending something psychologically reinforces that thing. It turns fence-sitters into true believers. And that can only be bad. And yet, no matter how true all of that is, I have read enough from those on the receiving end of that ignorance to understand how the line between it and hate blurs to the point of irrelevance. I think anyone who actually expects white people to get better without some kind of constructive intervention is deluded. But that doesn't mean someone who understands and refuses to turn their suffering into teachable moments is wrong. But Daniel Sloss disagrees. He knows that society sucks and people suck, but believes that trying to help the people who don't want to suck is something we should do. But by we, he doesn't really mean himself. At first blush, this seems to contradict something that he hammered home during X, that guys need to talk to their bros about consent. It is not a woman's job to tell men what no means. It shouldn't be anyone's, but it's something that men can explain as well, because it's not an abstract concept. Nothing means yes except for yes. Done. But ignorance of the law, which is what he was talking about in X, is separate from ignorance of others' feelings, which is the concern here. That is abstract, and neither Daniel Sloss nor I are the right messengers. Even the wokest white boy on YouTube, which I am not, can only do so much because he only knows so much. And perhaps there's an abdication of responsibility there because he and I and folks like us can elevate other voices instead of relying purely on our own, but doing so requires the acknowledgement that I don't really know anything and am trying to learn, as well as others believing that that is okay and that I won't get it right every time. Until something has directly affected me, my understanding of it is limited at best, and many things will never affect me or him. All I can do is read and listen to those who are affected, but that in and of itself is the teaching that I can't feel justified in asking people to do. It's just not motivated by something bad that I said. Other people get canceled so that I may not, I guess. Until I do. Seems like it's just a matter of time given the stuff I've decided to focus on here on this review channel. Hell, maybe this will be the video that does it. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you particularly to my patrons, my mom, Hamrian Marco, Kat Saracata, Benjamin Schiff, Anthony Cole, @BlasianFMA, Magnolia Denton, and Elliot Fowler. If you like this video, that's great. If not, I get it. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe. I hope to see you next week.